The things they could put in this game. A toilet with a fucking double decker is like left in there.
A couple of months ago, I did a video on Back 4 Blood's beta, which I had a bit of fun with. There were some challenging moments, but mostly it just felt like a copy and paste of Left 4 Dead for modern gamers. Now, Back 4 Blood has released, and I've never been so conflicted with a game before. We've been spoiled with horde shooters this year with World War Z Aftermath and Aliens Fireteam Elite. So, how does Back 4 Blood stack up compared to these newer titles and the original Left 4 Dead? If you aren't aware, Back 4 Blood is done by Turtle Rock Studios, the same developers behind the decent idea but poor execution that was Evolve, but more famously the studio that did Left 4 Dead. Now, Back 4 Blood uses the bones of Left 4 Dead but adds in mechanics from newer and more relevant games like Destiny or Fortnite with gun rarity and the variety system. We've also got a card system which adds perks to your playstyles, reward points for completing missions, and some customization with characters and weapon skins. First, let's just take a look at the core gameplay itself. It's basically just Left 4 Dead. You'll go from safe room to safe room while you complete tasks like saving civilians from a zombie horde, you blow up a mine, or simply just move from safe room to safe room. However, between missions there are cutscenes and we're getting a story here. Is the story in depth, interesting, or did I really care for it?
On second thought, no, not really, no.
But did I appreciate some mo-capped cutscenes and seeing some entertaining cutscenes? Well, yeah, sure, I guess. Here in Back 4 Blood, we're playing as characters that aren't simply just a skin, but have special abilities, which isn't a bad idea. You can play as a character that plays to your strengths and personal playstyles. The character of Mum quickly revives players once per level and can carry additional support items. She'll also start the game with a sawn-off shotgun as her sidearm, which is handy. Then there's the character of Holly, who's more of an athletic character that has more stamina, and she starts with a baseball bat as her secondary weapon, rather than a pistol. So if you prefer to whack things, then Holly's your girl. If you prefer to play more of a support and healing character, then you want to play as the character of Doc. Now, as you play through levels, yes, you take on these standard cannon fodder zombies, whether they're simply just standing there looking like a bored teenager while their mum does the grocery shopping, or you've accidentally summoned a horde. Throughout levels, yes, just like in Left 4 Dead, you'll find weapons, but also weapon attachments that further enhance your weapons. Grenades, molotovs, support abilities like medkits and defibs and all that sort of crap, and toolkits. Now, throughout each level there are locked rooms which need toolkits to open, which can have special weapons, attachments, and copper inside. Now, copper is basically in-mission currency that, when in safe rooms, you can spend them in a store. Now, copper lets you buy support items, team perks, weapons, or restock up on ammo. The core gameplay, yes, is the same as Left 4 Dead, but characters with special abilities comes in handy. Now, at the end of each level, you get these things called supply points. This is a currency in-game that you get from completing missions, and you can get some extra by completing side missions like bringing in specimen containers to a safe room. Now, these points, thankfully, you cannot buy with real money, at least not yet anyways, and you put them into these things called supply runs. You basically spend points to unlock cards which further buff up your characters. There might be cards that give you, say, 20% increase in stamina, that every melee kill regenerates 2 health points, or even some that give you unlimited secondary ammo, but it slows your movement speed down. From there, you build basically a deck of 15 cards, and at the start of every mission, you can equip one card in the order at which your deck is stacked. Basically, if you stack the great perks at the start of your deck, then you'll be able to select those perks first. Now, as you start to equip buff cards, the game will equip modifier cards like standard zombies being harder and tougher to take down, so they need headshots, or special infected zombies that are somehow wearing body armor. There's also security doors that, when looked at the wrong way, they'll set off an alarm that alerts a horde. I won't lie, it took me a minute or two to figure out how the card system worked, but once I wrapped my head around it, it was pretty straightforward stuff. Obviously, depending on what character you prefer to play as, you create and equip the relevant decks. When I played as Holly, I'd have cards that increased my stamina and melee damage, but when I played as Mum, I'd have ammo and healing perks. In the last mission of Back 4 Blood, I basically had all of my cards equipped and then some additional cards on top of that just increased my ammo count or stamina by 10%. Now, these cards are needed to play on harder difficulties, and you'll need to be playing towards your character's strengths. On hard difficulties, you will need to call out what weapon you're using and what playstyle you're doing. Weapons in Back 4 Blood run on 4 separate ammo types: assault rifle, sniper rifle, shotgun, and SMG. Now pistols and SMGs obviously use the SMG rounds, while sniper rifles and the Desert Eagle will use sniper rounds. It's worth noting too, if you're running around using a SMG and a pistol, both of these weapons will use the exact same ammo type, so if you run out of SMG ammo, you're basically fucked, so you generally want to run around with 2 different ammo typed weapons. Now thankfully if a friend calls out that they need ammo, you can drop ammo for your friends to pick up. Towards the end game I was using a melee weapon and a shotgun and would pick up and carry assault rifle ammo, acting a bit like an ammo mule for my team in case they needed it. And in turn they weren't using shotgun ammo, so they kept me supplied. Weapon wise there are a metric fuck ton of weapons available here, like the classic AK-47, Magnum revolvers, but there's also modern classics like the AA-12 auto shotgun that absolutely rips through zombies. Each weapon too has a coloured variant system that's a bit of a worn out welcome in these sort of games. There's grey for common, green for uncommon, purple, blue and yellow gold, basically like you get in Destiny and games like that. Now the same is set up too for weapon attachments, which adding weapon attachments to a game like this, sure, isn't a bad idea, but sadly you can add basically any weapon attachment to any weapon, like a sniper rifle scope to a shotgun. Sadly too though, you can't unequip attachments to weapons. Multiple times I'd find a fantastic shotgun like the AA-12 and it'd have a fantastic magazine and stock attachment with a silencer and then a fucking sniper rifle scope stuck on top. Now, Back 4 Blood can be a lot of fun, but towards the end of the game I've never wanted to simply uninstall a game so hard before, to the point where the last mission might be one of the worst missions I've covered so far on this channel that I've played, even more so than the Mr. Freeze fight in Arkham Origins. But where does Back 4 Blood work? Well, for starters, it's completely crossplay with PlayStation, PC and Xbox. Secondly, it's on Game Pass, and if you're not aware, I think Game Pass is a fantastic service. Back 4 Blood 2 is also a simple pick up and play game where you and some friends can casually chat shit and have a beer and not take things too seriously. That is, at least for the first couple of missions. As you progress further in the campaign, the game gradually gets harder as you'd expect, but not in a fun way. Now, to go forward, we need to go back to the beta and chat about that for a moment. Now, in the beta, easy mode was pretty easy and the game worked well for that fun, casual style of gameplay, having a couple of beers and shit like that. Now, medium mode basically increased friendly fire damage, but the enemy damage was the same, so you just needed to call out what you were doing and needed to be careful. Hard mode was impossible to even do the first mission without high-end cards that buffed your characters. Fast forward to now with Back 4 Blood out, and on medium difficulty it was impossible to even get through the first mission. Now this wasn't due to enemies dealing more damage, but by spawning in more enemies, like having 3 or 4 special enemy units appearing at once. So with that, you're basically forced into playing the game on easy mode. Now the game does start out easy enough before ramping up in difficulty to the point where again the game just throws cannon fodder enemies at you and 3 to 4 special zombie variants. One mission felt like it was pulled straight out of World War Z with a heap of zombies and special zombies, and rather than it being cool like it did in World War Z, here it just didn't work for me, and fuck doing that mission on harder difficulties. Now let's talk about special zombies, shall we? Being a Left 4 Dead clone or a spiritual successor, Back 4 Blood special units are a copy and paste from Left 4 Dead with updated character models so they fit into the world of Back 4 Blood, and they've got changed names. There's a tall boy, which depending on what variant it is basically the charger from Left 4 Dead 2, which will charge in your direction, grab you, and then squeeze the life out of you. There's rip-off boomers that will spew on you from a distance and get you pretty fucking accurately, or charge in and explode, and then the spew will summon a horde. There's hockers. That's right, hockers, who are fucking spitters who can spit around corners and through walls.
It's alright. Yeah, I'm about to go fucking down. Yeah.
Though there are some new enemy variants which are more so bosses rather than special enemy variants. For starters, we've got the Ogre, which if you've played the beta you'll know it's a giant monstrosity. This enemy variant appears from a hole in the ground, annoys you and attacks you until it reaches about half health and then retreats and will appear later in the level. It's not an overly complicated boss fight. Just don't get too close to him as the Ogre can grab you and slap you around, but the Ogre will also throw giant balls of pus at you. Then there's also the Hag, which during my playthrough only appeared once. Now, I'm not going to Google how this enemy variant works because I only saw them once and it just wouldn't work for me to talk about something I've only experienced once. But when I did experience the Hag, it was because an alert popped up on my screen that my friend startled it. Then there's the Breaker, which is basically just the tank from Left 4 Dead. So with special enemies, boss variant of enemies, cannon fodder enemies, then you've got more to worry about on top of that with birds and snitches. Some missions or areas of missions will have birds that when you shoot at them or you go near them, they'll alert a horde of zombies. Now snitches are basically screaming zombies that when alerted, they'll scream out and yep, alert a horde of zombies. Honestly, there are so many enemy variants and ways to alert a damn horde, there's not many moments of the game where you get to quietly just catch your breath. Now, it's not all bad here in Back 4 Blood. The moment-to-moment action to say maybe 70% of the main core game can be a bit of fun.
It's like rotisserie chicken or something.
Back 4 Blood is a simple pick-up game where you and 3 mates can have a laugh and have a beer on a Friday night. Yes, the card system is a little confusing or a mechanic that some players, like a few of my friends, didn't really care for, but it's a system that gives players some proper buffs. There are moments where the lighting and atmosphere in the game is through the roof. There's a level inside a school which had some great tension, at least in my opinion. Being able to upgrade weapons and drop ammo for your friends who need it, again, is a great idea and a great system. When the game gets harder and it drops its own nerf cards like security doors and such like that, again, it's a pretty cool idea. There are also some pretty cool Easter eggs in Back 4 Blood too. There's an Evil Dead reference, a Shining reference, and there's even a mission where you'll need to start a jukebox inside a pub and hold off against a horde of zombies, basically like in that scene from Shaun of the Dead. The songs on the jukebox too are also randomized, and it's some cracking songs too which keep the atmosphere on a high note. But now, spoilers for anyone who doesn't want to know, so you can turn it off here. But the last 2 missions of the game were the absolute worst levels I've experienced. One level is basically a giant breeding ground for zombies and special zombie variants where you'll have access to special grenades that melt zombies' health. However, this level is full of special zombie variants and countless ogres. Honestly, this level was insane. It's a bit overkill to the point where it's not challenging, but it just says like, fuck it, let's just throw the kitchen sink at the players. My health would sharply drop even though I had some fantastic perks, only to be revived by my team and then immediately lose all my health again.
Oh, that's it.
However, the last level has this pretty sweet cutscene sitting up against a fight called the Abomination, which looks like and plays like a Gears of War boss, and not a good Gears of War boss, a modern Gears of War boss. Basically, you're forced to face off against this boss, where at first you need to take out not 1, but 4 giant tentacles that come out of the ground and avoid attacks which deal loads of damage. From that, after you've defeated the 4 tentacles, they go back into the ground, and you need to jump into a hole in the ground and basically do a boss fight that is a unoriginal copy from the Leviathan from Gears of War 2. But with all of that, the last boss fight requires a bit of concentration and coordination because, hey, this is a boss that is going to deal some serious damage, right? It's the final boss of the game, and it makes sense. However, Back 4 Blood still continues to throw a stupid amount of standard zombies and special zombies having to worry about fighting this abomination monster. And after you've destroyed both glowing tonsils inside the creature, then it turns around and runs away and you have to chase it and shoot glowing portions on its back. All the while more hordes of zombies chase after you. Honestly, yes, this mission was played on easy mode, and I've already discussed how the difficulty works in this game, but it just felt like I was playing this on the hardest difficulty. The last 2 missions honestly just felt like a chore. Like you've had a decent night out eating pizza and having some local beers and you've spewed, but you've got some spew on your shirt and you know you have to make your way home. It's just like this in Back 4 Blood. You're so close to the end, you're having an okay night, you've spewed and you know you just gotta finish it. But is Back 4 Blood a good game? I think it's a bit average at best. If you're not going to play this online and you're going to play this solo, don't bother with it. You need to be playing this with friends. But thankfully the entire game is crossplay with every platform, and even better too, Back 4 Blood is on Game Pass for both Xbox and PC. Game Pass, fantastic service in my opinion, and Back 4 Blood is a great Game Pass game. If you and your mates have Game Pass, you basically have nothing to lose downloading it and playing it because you're not wasting a potential $60 to $150. Some people are going to love Back 4 Blood, and hey, that's fine, I'm glad you're liking it, but some people aren't gonna like it, which is basically the same for every video game. Now, after finishing the campaign, I went back and returned to play some more Back 4 Blood with friends, just having a casual chit-chat and all we do. And after the first act, the game ramps up in difficulty to the point where it's just not fun. On the second act, yes, even still on easy mode with top tier perks, you're still using a fuckload of ammunition to take out the new boomers, where in Left 4 Dead they'd explode after 1 or 2 rounds from a pistol. I think the feedback from the open beta might have ruined it a bit. Easy on the open beta was basically like playing Left 4 Dead on easy. Not hard in any case, it was fun with friends who just wanted to hang out without thinking. Medium requires a bit of teamwork as friendly fire was increased and hard was proper hard. Now as soon as I started playing this, I put it straight onto medium mode because I played the beta with some friends and we couldn't get through the first mission. But how does Back 4 Blood line up with World War Z Aftermath and Aliens Fireteam Elite? Well, Aliens felt like a horde shooter with an alien skin over the top rather than an Aliens game, so I overly wasn't a fan of it in general. While World War Z was a bit of fun, sure, and the horde system and the enemies work better in World War Z than it does in Back 4 Blood, Left 4 Dead for me still reigns supreme over these style of games. Now yes, nowadays games can have patches and updates that fixes difficulties, bugs, enemy health, spawns, and so much of my personal issues with the game that it can change from now. And yeah, a game like Back 4 Blood probably will have a couple of changes and perks coming through, and I'll probably take a look at it in a year's time to see how it compares from launch to then. Back 4 Blood is available now.
Yeah, zombies historically known to be able to swim, hey?
Someone left his shit in the dunny.
Is that really? Upper decker.
Yeah, holy shit. Holy shit.
Let's have a look.
Fucking hell, Matto.
That's my shit.
It's fucking you.
Holy crap!